Hey guys, welcome to another tank review. Me CM, how you doing guys? So, recently I've been marking some of the Churchill tanks at tier 5 and 6, and I felt like doing a review on the tier 6 one because I think this tank, I'm gonna get it out of the way, spoiler alert, this tank is not very good. In fact, a double spoiler, I feel that this tank is easily one of the worst, if not the worst, tier 6 heavies, with maybe the exception of the TOG, which actually, by the way, has some advantages over this thing. Yeah, shocking, I know. So I'm going to start on this page. I'm going to start with the stats first before I get onto the armor. So you do not have amazing DPM. It's definitely got a fast firing gun for the top gun. You've got 148mm of pen on AP, and you've got 208mm of pen on APCR. Nothing special at all there. 140 average damage per shot. It's basically the Comet gun, but a tier lower and on a heavy tank. 0.36 dispersion and 2.3 second aiming time, with kinda average soft stats. But the nice side is that those soft stats don't really come into play that much, mainly because you're going so incredibly slow. Speaking of going slow, the shells also pretty slow. 785 meters a second shell velocity on AP and 981 on APCR. Not great. And basically in this tank, HE can go fuck itself. Because it's also slow, but it only has 38 mils of pen. 38mm of pen. It's not very good, and yeah, not worth it. Mobility. Oh man. 20km/h top speed. 12 in reverse. 350 horsepower, which gives you a power to weight of 8.5. Slow to accelerate, and slow overall. Does not turn particularly quick either, because it is quite bulky. The turret, on the other hand, does turn very quick, so the turret reverses at about 30 degrees a second, which is pretty nice. And so you've got that going for you at least. You can still keep like targets within your aiming circle without having to worry about them getting around you too quickly. I have actually being able to shoot down light tanks that have attempted to go around me very easily, actually. That is one nice side about this. If you're on flat ground, and yeah, it needs to be flat because you've only got 4 degrees of gun depression, like tracing tanks that are circling you is very easy because the turret turns very quickly. I'll get onto the armor in a moment. Health, you've got 960. Fairly average for a tier 6 heavy. And however, this tank has, of course, like every other, module health, and it's not very good. Yeah, your engine only has 104 and like overall module health, and your gun is a 76.2mm one. Basically, just well, it's labeled as 77. Basically, the 77mm historically was just a slightly improved version of the 17-pounder. It was the same caliber. Damage versus modules, 105. We look at the engine health, 104. So you can actually quite easily break your own engine with this thing. And that is not difficult to do, by the way, and I'll show you why shortly when it comes to the armor. All the others are fairly standard for the tier in terms of track health, ammo health. Nothing new there. View range, 360 meters base. That's not too bad. You can get up to the maximum spotting range with your view range skills and your optics and vents. And then food does help quite a bit. That will push it over to about 456, 456, which is not bad. Radio range is kind of whatever. So, and the nice part is that even the shells are not that expensive. Very least, so you know you're not spending much when you're firing any of the shells, even APCR. And you carry a total of 84 shells, so you've got quite a few as well. Now I'll note before I get on the armor that the gun depression and elevation, this 12 degrees elevation and 4 of depression is with the top gun. So if you pick, oh, it's also with the 75mm Vickers high velocity, which is the top gun from the Churchill 1. If you were to pick this 75mm here with 91 AP pen, 144 APCR pen, basically the Excelsior gun, then you would get 20 degrees elevation and 12.5 degrees of gun depression. If you pick the derp, you get less gun depression again. You get 3 degrees, but you get 20 elevation. If you pick the 6-pounder, which has been around the whole time, you get 12.5 degrees of gun depression, as well as that 20 elevation. Keep that in mind. But I found that the gun that was most reliable was this 77mm, which IRL was basically just a 17-pounder. So onto the armor. And we're going to see exactly why this tank is not good when it comes to armor. It's not good for being a heavy. So I'm going to start with the lower plate. It's 139.7mm angled at about 20 degrees. But it does give it an effective thickness of just over 150mm, which is not bad. You've got a slab here of 95.3, which gives you 132 at the 43.9 degree angle. And the lower plate is, the lower plate is also 101.6mm, which again gives you about 150mm effective. The upper plate itself is completely flat and is 152.4mm. Your turret front is 152.4mm across the board, with the exception of these little kind of rounded bits here, which are a little thicker. They're not very big. They're not going to save you. You do have a 95mm section here, which is again about 150. Apart from the rounded sections, which it becomes a lot stronger. So there's that as well. Moving on to the, well, I say hull side. Okay, this tank has, as you can see, the somewhat, I guess you could call them sponsons that the tracks wrap around. So these are going to be a source of pain for you. So if you can see that this spaced armor here, now the section behind that spaced armor is not particularly thick. In fact, this section here, which is just an extension of it, is 50.8mm. And sure, it's angled, but it only gives you a total of about 88mm. So it is very easy for people to track and pen you with a single shot. So if you're at this angle, someone can shoot you right through here. Now, it says absorbed on tanks.gg. That is not true. At all. I've been shot through there, right into here, by Type 64s and T67s firing AP, and they've still penned. And tracked me. So, yeah. So keep that in mind, guys. That will be a never-ending source of pain for you. And it's the same for this section up here as well, by the way. So what can happen is a shell can go like right between the main part of the hull and the tracks right into here, but the game will still think it's also hitting the tracks. So it will track you and pen you in a single shot. No trouble at all. And it's going to be the same up here as well. Even though it says absorb. A lot of these angles where it's like 130, 140, maybe 150. Yeah, you can still get tracked and penned through that. Ignore that absorbed sign that tanks.gg is saying. It's not going to absorb them. Maybe heat shells if you're lucky, but AP and APCR, no, not a chance. The actual side is quite thick. It's 95.3, so if they hit there when you're angled, they are going to bounce, most likely. If you angle it like this. There's also a little section with extra tracks that's 100, that gives you a total of 115.3 there. Again, this is not going to save you, because people are just going to shoot you here every time. And it's not a difficult pen at all. Your upper side there is 82.6mm, apart from the very back, which you can see there, which is 25.4. That is also going to be a source of frustration for you, because when you're side scraping, that is not that small a target, it turns out. But at the same time, that people are not necessarily going to hit that because of RNG. So there is also one more section of this side armor that will endlessly screw you over. Now you can see that little green part just under the tracks there. Yeah, that's 15.9 millimeters, and it runs pretty much all the way underneath the track on the top there. Yeah, so that is going to annoy you in a couple of ways. One, it's going to get overmatched. A lot. You're going to get tracked and penned through that. A hell of a lot. And artillery and HE, when they hit your side armor, or even if they hit the upper track here, that's also going to annoy you, because the way HE works, we'll spot that, like basically the sphere that counts as the HE explosion, will take that 15.9mm section into account and base the damage on that. So you will find yourself getting hit for 400 to even more depending on what the gun is. Like KV2s and OIs have hit this thing for over 400 without any trouble at all when I've been playing this thing. So yeah, keep that in mind. Also, your roof armor on the front of the hull is 19mm. That will also screw you over, because if you're even at this angle to someone, even if the server thinks you're coming this way, even if it's a tank that's like this, if they're shooting you like this, the server can sometimes think that the shell's coming down into it, and it will just plop it right into here and overmatch it, which is an auto pen for pretty much every single gun you meet, with the exception of maybe the 57mm guns. That's it. And it's the same for the back, but even worse, it's 15.9mm, which will get overmatched by 57mm guns, so yeah. Also, if it overmatches this, it'll very likely damage the engine, so you've got that as well. Your turret roof as well is very, very weak. 20mm here. Anything that you fight, apart from, again, 57mm or below, the guns will just pen that. Yeah. AP and APCR shells, like, even from your own tank, will just lol pen that for free. So if someone aims for the cupola, which sure, it's not very big, it is quite a weak cupola, but it's not very big, they'll probably not hit the cupola. They'll probably hit this. Your entire rest of your turret roof is 20mm. That is also really, really bad. Artillery, if they hit that, will likely pen. And it's the same for the engine deck, and it's the same for here. I actually did have a FE304, the infamous Bert the Avenger, actually pen this in a city map. So, well, Siegfried line, I was in, like, right in the city, and he still managed to fire over the buildings and hit that, so, and pen it, of course, as well, because, of course he did. So there's that as well. Your back is 50mm, so DARP guns can pen that. 32mm down there, because, yeah, of course. Your turret sides are relatively thick, so, I mean, if it's angled, then, you know, you'll get a little bit more out of the turret. Not really much out of the front, but at least out the side. You do have a turret ring, but no one's gonna ever hit you there, so, yeah. Also, just below your upper plate, you have this section here, this angled 57mm plate. Now, that is very weak, but no one shoots you there. No one has ever shot me there. Not even aiming down, which is really weird. So, that's something to keep in mind, guys. If you are fighting one of these, and you're in maybe a tier 5 tank, or even a tier 4, that has like 120 pen, and you've got a good shot at this part, like, even if it's like this, aim for this. If you hit that, then you're probably gonna pen. If you're not below it, if you're like on the level of this tank or slightly above, you can just lol pen this frontally, which is funny. So yeah, guys, armor wise, this thing is not very good. In fact, it's pretty trash. The 152mm plates on the turret front and the upper hull are very meaningless in this thing. Don't get me wrong, there'll be some people who get trolled by it, but that's it, really. Not many people will have a problem with this tank, not even tier 4s or 5s. Anyway, guys, moving on to the replay. So, the replay today is a match that I had on Ghost Town while 3 marking. Now, this was in the last 4% of the 3 mark, so I was just like, you know what, I don't want to play this tank for too much longer. I'm just gonna go ham with all the try-hardness, all the gold spam. Because this thing, it's frankly terrible. So, and while it is, you know, against tier 4s, 5s, and same tier, while that 148mm of pen is generally absolutely fine for your own tier and below, yeah, I didn't want to rely on it because of how many times I saw tier 8 and even tier 7, where actually there are tier 7s that will absolutely troll you when it comes to that 148mm of pen. So, there's only one place to take this tank on this map. That's the city. You do not take this anywhere else. There is nothing else you can do with this tank apart from take it into the city. So, checking to my left as I go, just in case anything gets spotted there. Nothing gets spotted, so I just keep on trundling down towards the standard heavy tank corner. Panda 38A in front of me gets killed. I take the shot at the Panda P25, doesn't go anywhere. KV2 over there, 40 TP there, get a nice easy shot at the Cupola. Nice little high roll as well. That was a plus 22 damage roll. Matilda is over there as well, fighting our mediums and heavies on D7. And we take a hit from the enemy Churchill 1. Basically the same gun, remember. Just with lower alpha and like a couple millimeters lower pen. And he breaks our ammo rack and tracks us with a... Well, he breaks our ammo rack with a single shot, which, yeah, that's also something that will happen a lot in this tank. But we're just going to make him realize that his armor is equally meaningless. Because I guarantee, even with AP, all of those shots would have penned as well. So I'm just going to move forward and clean him up while our team deals with the KV2. Now that bounced off the side of the turret, it looks like, and yep, once again, the exact same. That one, however, goes through. Don't know where he penned. Ah, turret roof, yep. He pens through the turret roof, overmatch. Really not difficult. This guy, there's nothing this guy can do. Now, the 40 TP is stock, we noticed this before, so I really am not afraid of these guys. Sure, he tracks us. We're going to be stuck here for a moment until my repair kit comes back, but I'm really not worried. And sure, we may have lost our own KV2, but what these guys are doing... Now, I'm going to actually pause the replay here for a second. What are these guys doing wrong? So what these guys are doing is they are shooting this. Now, this part that they are shooting is not actually connected to the hull in any way, if you can see that. So the hull actually starts here, the way that this is angled. They're just shooting this. So, sure, they're keeping me tracked, but that's all they're doing. This ARL, meanwhile, yeah, not the smartest move. I somehow missed that shot on the M5. The KV2 for some reason fires AP and bounces. Standard AP as well. I decide to finish him off. I don't want a 700 alpha gun trying to go around me, or even to overmatch my turret, so I just finish him off. Finish off, or was going to finish off the Matilda, but he gets killed by the P43. And then this guy's just... I tried to get another shot, but yeah, I was not going to get past the wreck of the KV2. And now there's only 3 tanks left. Very, very quick match. Just gonna claim the soul of this guy while we're able to. Yep, there we go. An extra 41 damage for us there. Didn't even spot us. Probably didn't have a great crew. This shot, very lucky. This one looped over, hit the side of the T-40. He gets finished off by the KV-1. Now it's just the enemy top tier medium, the P-43 BIS. He's not been seen in a while. I give the Cromwell the brothers in arms. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Why not? He's been killing things. Why not? Done himself an alright job. There he is. There's the P-43. We get another shot on him here. We get the kill as well. And that's game over. So, one of the rare occasions where the armor actually worked in this thing. So as you can see, that was an ace tanker. That was also a cool-headed brothers in arms, of course. High caliber and steel wall. For 2,223 damage and 1,336 base XP, we got ourselves 5 kills. Not quite enough for that top gun, but, you know, I'll take it. Obviously, we spent a lot of money because APCR spam. And, yeah, this thing is not good. The fact that 208 pen is so unreliable against +2s, or even a lot of +1s. And how inflexible this tank is, it's not a good heavy. Like, the armor is unreliable. The gun is not very often reliable against, apart from anything that's maybe same tier or lower. Which is not good considering it's tier 6, so it will see a lot of +1 and +2. It has no gun depression, so it cannot use ridges. There's very, very little this thing can do. Especially considering how slow it is. So this tank is really, really in need of a buff. And before I finish a wrap up, I'm going to actually point out what this tank needs in terms of a buff. So I'm going to say right now, give it gun depression. Give it maybe 7 or 8 degrees. It does not need to be a lot. I would maybe buff the lower plate. Oh no, the lower plate's fine. I would maybe buff the upper plate to about 170. Maybe in terms of thickness. And the same with the entire turret front on this part. I would maybe buff this ridge line here a little bit also. And then buff the turret roof. 20mm here. Hell, even the whole turret roof, 20mm. That's unacceptable in 2020. That needs to be at least 50mm. Maybe make it 45. Yeah, make it 45. So then, you know, at least the big guns can shoot us. Like the KV-2 and the OI. Like with their derp guns, if they fire AP at that. If they're smart enough to fire AP at that, then, you know, they can overmatch that. Also make it so then this shot here is not a track and pen. So make that like, I don't know, like 280 effective. And make it so then it doesn't track and pen. Same for here. As simple as that. Make it so then people can track you, of course, because, you know, immobilizing slow, heavy tanks is important. And then, make it so then this 15.9mm section here is not overmatchable. Make it maybe like 50mm. And the turret roof, not turret roof, the hull roof, maybe make that like 45 as well. This back section here, maybe keep it the entire same thickness all the way up and down the side, just because then it's consistent. Then people aren't having to think, oh, I've got this section at the back that's weak. I have to look after that, you know? Otherwise, it's fine. Otherwise, like, the gun is fine. Pen is whatever. The alpha damage is whatever. The gun handling is whatever. It does not need a pen or gun handling or alpha damage buff. It does not even need a reload buff. Just give it gun depression, buff the armor, remove the stupid overmatch spots that don't need to be there, and we'll be good. Because that's the whole point of this thing, is that it's slow but heavily armored from the front. That is the whole point. And the fact that it has this spot here, which is track and pen, and the overmatch spot here, and this spot, and the roof, and the back, that are all very easily penned. And hell, even this spot actually as well. So to be honest, I don't mind this being left here, because that then means if people learn about this and actually, you know, go out and check check the tank out in things like tanks.gg here and actually learn, then they'll be rewarded for their learning. And then players that hide that, or angle it properly, will also be rewarded with bounces. So, you know, it would actually be a good thing to have. Keep the cupola the same as it is now. But like I say, pretty much everything else frontally needs a buff. Anyway, guys, that's it from me for today. A little bit ranty on this one, but I do feel that this thing is really in need of some love. So, hope you guys enjoyed the review. Catch you later.